All right, so welcome to HVAC Talk with Huff. I am Huff, and today I have the esteemed honor of having Mr. Wes Davis today. Finally, after we've been back and forth trying to get a date nailed down, finally able to sit down and talk to the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Wes. Wes, how you doing?
Kind. I am the one who's honored to be here. Thank you for having me, Huff.
Listen, it's I remember. I don't know if you see. I don't ever find myself as a memorable person, but you are to me, because I can tell you, I remember the first time I met you. I was working for Carrier. Goes back to like 2012 or so.
Oh, wow.
And I was asked to come to your office and talk to you about you were starting the quality program.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And also you had he had come out with suddenly I'm blanking. I wish I'd have wrote this part down. The restoring the cleanliness and
right.
maintenance guide. Remember that?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And I remember coming down there to Shirlington and meeting you in your office. And I was like, I had only been with Carrier a little while, and I'm always one of these people. I'm just kind of laid back in those kind of things. And just like to be at ACCA's main office and talking to Wes Davis, I was just like, I remember the meeting and you going over the program because we were interested at the time. And so that goes back a long ways. Then
it does. Wow, that does go back.
And then I attended the EPIC program there, the EPIC class that Hank taught.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I met Alex Meany.
Alex Meany, yes.
Alex Meany and I sat we were both on this corner, right? And we sat there, and it was a unique experience because Hank got mad during that class. I don't know if you ever remember that story, but he got mad and walked out on us because somebody kept pushing the needle on him. And so finally he got calmed down to go back. And Alex and I just still chuckle about that today. It's the funniest darn thing.
He was a dynamic speaker. He had a way.
But I learned so much, so a lot of people that come out of the technical world, and I don't think people understand that how can you be a technician of 20, 30 years and not understand the fundamentals of Manual J? It's very easy. You're not exposed to it. You're working on equipment all the time and you're making equipment run.
Absolutely.
And I think there's such a disconnect there. And maybe that's a conversation for another day because I have a real passion for that. When I look at coming from the OEM world, having done tech support, I look at the extended performance tables as a guide to where if they say that system's not working right, and I go there and let's just face it, okay, I put my gauges on it, whatever you want to, however you want to say it. At the end of the day, what does an extended performance table say that it should perform in this condition? Is it doing that? And that's the thing that we kind of leave out. But to me, the extended performance tables go hand in hand with Manual J, Manual S, Manual D, right? Because it's all built into that place, right?
And you bring up a good point because technicians are focused on fixing that problem right now. My customer's not cool. And it goes so much better when they do have a target to shoot at. If they are just getting pressures or temperatures or even airflow as good as they can, that's one thing. But if they can understand some of those other dynamics, and then when you layer home performance on top of that, we could both tell stories till the world looks level about how the system was doing good, but the house was fighting us, and we were doing our level best. And it's a tough business, and my hat is off to every technician out there.
Oh, absolutely. But I learned so much sitting in that class about design and how that correlated with what the equipment's designed to do. And I don't know if there's talk about ever bringing that class back, but I'm gonna tell you, I loved that class.
So the short answer, I know this is way off topic, but the short answer is no. We're going to do it differently. So EPIC was made for instructors. It was a precursor. It was Hank teaching material again to expose it maybe at a deeper level for future instructors. And so we're going to revise the program slightly. We really want the instructor to already be familiar with the content. And so the process will be a test and possibly a live presentation. Show us that you know how to present to a class.
Oh, wow.
And this will be a virtual interaction to save on time and travel, etc. But the the thing that you loved, or the thing that I think I heard you say, was that advanced review of the material. Because when you're exposed to it the first time, there's so much information, and you take that with you and you try to apply that. You stumble and bump along until you get pretty good. You think, okay, I think I got a pretty good handle on this, but what about this thing or that thing? And so to come back to an advanced level, and we're not spending as much time on table one. We know design conditions. Now we're spending more time on the building components. Now we're spending more time on infiltration and duct losses, zoning, all the other things that we still need to get our hands around. That we are building that class. So that's one of those classes that Ed will probably be teaching. Ed or Alex, someone that we've got a great deal of respect for and can really take that material and bring it to life.
That's awesome. That'd be great. That'd be great. And I know we kind of just dug right into material, but I want to back up for my first question, though.
Yes, sir.
Who is Wes Davis? Where did you come from, and how did you get to ACCA?
Great question. So, born and raised in the southwest corner of Oklahoma, a little rural community, a little small rural community. I went to work for my rich uncle after I graduated from school and got to travel the world and see lots of neat places. So that was a lot of fun. And when I left the service, I needed a job, and a heat and air company was hiring. There's a little company in coastal South Carolina, hot, humid. And I was brought on because of some past experience at a managerial level. But I didn't know my butt from first base. And so, fortunately, they were very patient, a lot of education, a lot of time spent at kitchen tables, spent in attics, installing equipment, until I was ready to take on a more managerial and leadership role. And then went to some NCI training, and Al Diambola gave a great class, and we were talking about performance measurements, et cetera. And I came back and I said, we've got to start measuring airflow and static pressure, and we've got to do a much better job of installing this equipment. And the challenge is that it was around 2004, 2005, 2006. And, if you get a dirty filter, it's time to replace that system. Oh, absolutely, sure, let's do it. It was just as easy as falling off a log. And we did our best, but we did not measure and test as well as I believe we could have. And so I said, fellas, I think it's time for me to go. And it just so happened that ACCA, Glenn Horahan, needed some help. And so I came to Washington, D.C., and started working on codes. You mentioned the quality restoration standard. That was a standard we were also working on. And my first day walking the door, he hands me our quality installation standard. And so I look at it, and there's all the design elements, the equipment, and the distribution, the ducts, and then documentation and customer education. I said, wow, this is impressive. Who's going to get contractors to do this? That's quite a heavy lift. And so we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But getting to work on code interactions, representing ACCA members in the industry, in the codes arena for a period of time, working on standards development. And then over time, roles and responsibilities changed. Energy Star came to ACCA and said, hey, we want to upgrade our Energy Star certified homes program. And we want ACCA to be the gatekeeper. We want you to keep out all the bad guys and only let in the good contractors. And we said no, because how could we? We didn't know who was doing good work, and who wasn't. Who wasn't. So moving on, we did our dead level best to at least set a minimum bar, a few hurdles where a contractor could demonstrate they're insured, they're properly licensed, and they raise their hand and promise to do good work. And from there, we started a contractor accreditation effort. And we'll talk more, I'm sure, about where we want to go and how we want to see that develop.
That's awesome. That's a cool. I'd never heard that story before. That's why I kind of want to know. I was like, I like knowing who people are, and that's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and knowing that you came through the ranks too, so you know what it's like to be the rank and file and do this.
Carrying the pager, on the
Oh,
weekends.
well, yeah, I
Love it.
remember those days. These people, young guys now or gals, they like see a pager, like, what is that, right? And then when we got alphanumeric pagers, remember those where you could actually
Oh,
program
that's
text in
right.
it?
Yeah.
Well, we thought we were in the shizzle then. It was like, man, we're in the big time. We thought we were in the Jetsons, like, it's like,
How about when that big bag phone showed up in your truck? That was
oh yeah. It was a lot better than that two-way radio where we got to hear everybody's conversations, right? Oh yeah, we thought we were something. I can't remember how many times I had to stop, and we had a 800 number to shop that stop
oh,
and
wow.
try to hit a payphone somewhere to call the shop, find out what's going on. So yeah,
Right, right.
these people don't know. They don't understand how much easier it is with all these. I say easier, but sometimes cell phones are also an albatross, so
They
hanging
are.
around our neck. But so let's talk about just an overview of ACCA itself, right? Because I think
Sure.
a lot of people have heard of it, but they just don't. I think a lot of people don't understand the depth and the breadth of who ACCA is. So I know that's a big thing to explain in a small amount of time, but just an overview of ACCA for us.
Absolutely. So we're a trade association. We welcome members in the industry. We also have strategic partners. You mentioned a manufacturer you worked with, the Carrier and other manufacturers are strategic partners, along with other businesses. And you can go to our website, acca.org, and see the long list of strategic partners. We have a contractor directory. If you want to see who's an ACCA member in your area, you can look it up by zip code. But our job is to represent and help HVAC businesses do better. That's the thing that we strive to do. There's a bunch of ways we do that. On the code side, I mentioned earlier, we try to represent the contractors in that arena. Standards development, both our standards and the standards of others, as well as the contractor accreditation. We believe that's a very important thing. And education. You mentioned Ed Jonawalk earlier, maybe I did. But getting out on the road and telling contractors about what ACCA is probably best known for, that is our design series. That and also representing our members in the halls of Congress. So lots of stuff going on at ACC.
Wow, that is really cool, and I know that you guys were very instrumental in kind of helping along with this, helping folks understand the A2L transition, and you were constantly helping update and help us to stay aware of the things that were going on, not only
Did our
during the
best.
transition, but also even with the R454B shortage and all that. I mean, you guys were very instrumental and constantly out there, just trying to help contractors. And to me, it was greatly appreciated. I know not only by myself, but a lot of my contractor friends appreciated the fact that you guys were staying out there. Because a lot of times when those are difficult discussions to have, people shrink back from difficult discussions.
It's a challenge, and my hat's off. Eddie McFarland, our chairman of our board, did a great job leading a discussion. It's a tough conversation to have, and I was very proud of the fact that several folks in the industry stepped forward and called it like it was, and let us know they're doing their dead level best to resolve the problem. And sure enough, we did get the problem resolved. It's not as big an issue these days. So transitions are tough. It was an opportunity, and I think, and I'm proud to say that ACCA stepped forward and was able to help.
Yeah, it was great, and we do definitely appreciate that. So let's step into one of the real topics that I wanted to get into, which is kind of what stemmed this whole getting together. Is I want to talk about the ACCA Quality Installation Program.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us a brief overview, and then we'll kind of dive in a little deeper?
I mentioned earlier, Energy Star came to ACCA and said, "Hey, we want you to keep the bad ones out, let the good ones in." And at that time, we had no way of having any insight. And so, as I said, right now, our contractor accreditation is primarily a raise your hand and promise to do good work. Uh, about, it must be 8 or 9 years ago, Jim Bergman and I are at a ResNet conference, and he says, "Hey, I've got this new app. and it was Measure Quick. And he talked about how he's seeing more and more technicians use it, and it gives insight into an installation. And so eventually, a few years ago, we were able to partner up and have a way to see how a contractor leaves the system running. Is it operating as it should? And using the QI standard, the ACCA 5 QI standard as benchmarks, working with MeasureQuick, we developed a way to identify a quality installation in the field. And now we have that feedback. And I think we are moving toward that thing that Energy Star first asked us, so that and believe me, there's a lot to running a business. My hat is off to every HVAC business owner out there.
Absolutely.
So many challenges that you face. But when a friend calls and says, hey, do you know a good contractor in X town, city, wherever? It's good to know that I could say, this contractor, I know they do good work because I can see that they issued or have issued quality installation certificates. And so this partnership gives us a way to objectively evaluate an installation. And it's not a specific company, it's an objective third-party trade association that can say, we know that Huffmeister Heating and Air did a great job. And we can communicate that very simply, very easily to a customer with a QI certificate.
Yeah, and so and we call that the VEO, right? Verified Equipment Operation.
So we have two. There's a verified system performance, and that considers both the designs. We have a load calculation done, equipment selection meets manual S tolerances, the equipment, and then the ducts. We've got tight ducts, we've got balanced airflow. That's a heavy lift for a lot of folks. So we created the verified equipment operation. Can we make sure that the equipment is at least operating correctly? Do we want design? Yes, absolutely. Do we want tight ducts? Of course. Do we want the airflow to be balanced? Absolutely. But if we can start where we can start with the equipment, all right, let's make sure the airflow is good. And we get some insights into the potential return leakage. So that does give us some insight. Airflow, refrigerant charge, electrical measurements, and then if it's a furnace, on-rate combustion. And if those elements are correct, we're a step ahead. Now we can start recognizing contractors who have at least met that minimum requirement. And I think that is going to be a great stepping stone toward contractors who can do the whole thing and be able to present that and that value proposition to a homeowner.
That's awesome. I've actually done the VEO myself. That's kind of why I mentioned that. And I did it in a lab down in Sterling, Virginia, I have access to, and it ain't no joke, right? But it is everything that we're supposed to be doing. And I think that's one of the key elements, is that it doesn't let you leave that out. Right. And of course, it's very similar to MeasureQuick's grading system. So they kind of go hand in hand. But I think the VEO is just a little bit more precise in some things and how it makes you go about doing it. And so I see it like, if I'm a homeowner. Now, if I'm a homeowner, I don't know, right? I don't know what I don't know.
Exactly.
But I'm thinking from a homeowner's perspective, this quality certificate here is basically assuring me that my contractor, dotted their I's and crossed their T's more than a normal, what we would consider a good contractor, to be honest with you. I mean, no knocks to anybody. Again, running a business is hard. But I've known a lot of people that were very successful, and if we're measuring success by being profitable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of profitable companies out there that install equipment and don't measure these things. Right. But taking this to this level of measurement is absolutely paramount to make sure the equipment's operating correctly.
I see three value propositions to most businesses. Probably the most important or the one with the biggest impact is reducing callbacks.
Yes.
If you can dial in the system before you leave, you may spend a little more time on the job at the job getting the job done right. but you will get the job done right. Number two, and so that's going to save you making multiple trips. You will have the system dialed in. Number two is being able to communicate effectively your value proposition. A lot of homeowners, a lot of customers, if you say, hey, I think you need a new system, and here's A, B, or C, well, which one do you think? I think you ought to do this one. Great, put it in. There's no question of your relationship. They trust you, you do the best job you can, and they expect that. But there's a lot of people who have new customers, and you're sitting across the kitchen table with someone you don't really know. How can you demonstrate objectively you're worth a little bit more, or at least when you're comparing me to somebody else, are they going to do this? Here's the level of rigor we have. Callbacks, that value proposition. And number two, if you don't do any of that, management oversight. If I know an installer left and the system was operating correctly and they earned a QI certificate, that's huge.
Yes.
You, I know, have probably hired lots and lots of installers. I have hired and let go a lot of installers. You do your best to pre-qualify and make sure they know what they're doing. You watch them like a hawk on that first job. And then, the second one, okay, yeah. And then you're off running parts or trying to talk to Ms. McGillicuddy or sitting across the kitchen table or running that marketing campaign or inventory, whatever it is. And there's always something going on. Now you've got insight. Now you can see what's going on. And you know that installer leaves the job working correctly, the system working correctly or not. And I say installer, it could be a startup tech, whoever it is, you know that the job is as it should be. And so if nothing else, you've got that insight. So the insight, reducing callbacks, and the value proposition, I think, are three real, tangible, useful benefits of this program.
Yeah, and all three of those, God, we could have a conversation about all three of those in depth, to be quite honest with you. The callbacks really hits a soft spot in my heart just because having been a service manager, for a contractor and knowing the cost of that, especially when I became a service manager and got paid on the profitability department. And I started digging into callbacks and finding out the why and getting to that root cause, right? Because it's one thing to say, well, we didn't do this or we didn't do that, but what is the real root cause? Is it because we don't have processes in place to make sure that that's done correctly? Was it a bad hire? Was it both? Is there anything I can do to make sure, right? And so getting to that root cause, sometimes you find out that you don't have the processes and you don't have the bump stops in place, right? And to me, the QI certificate, it meets all those things.
It goes a long way. Huff, we've been in the field. It's going to keep you from, or can't keep you from leaving the disconnect out. That's why you have your car keys on the disconnect. It can't solve everything. But if it's related to that system's operation performance, that we've got a really tight grip on. And we've got a resource that's coming. I'm going to act like it's already here. But we've got a callback calculator that we're going to put on our website. If you go to acca.org/prove it, we believe in proof, you can find a link to that callback calculator. And it's really simple. It's got a few key parameters we asked you for. And then if you want to dial it in a little bit more, there's a few more parameters you can adjust. And this gives you a rough idea of the impact of callbacks on your business. If you want to dial it in even more, I suggest you go to your financial professional and start digging into costs and time spent. But to get a rough idea, this does a good job of giving you a rough idea of the impact and what ACCA can do to help reduce those callbacks.
Yeah, and like I said, there's those dumb things we do, like leaving the disconnect, and Lord knows I've done that myself, and so I represent that remark. We all have, but in those things, that it's a callback. your impact's a lot lower. But when you go back for system performance problems, and the problem is the installers all have their idea of what is a good startup, right, or a good commissioning,
Yep.
and they vary, right? They're like armpits. Everybody's got two, and they're terrible, right? And they all stink. So it's like everybody's got this idea, right? Instead of saying, here's the actual standard. And that's what I love
Right.
about what ACCA has done. Here's the actual
Right.
standard of what a really proper commissioning should look like, and here you're only going to get the certificate if it's right. And so I'd like to tell you, of course, you were there when I presented at the U.S. Heat Pump Summit, where I showed like Measure Quick caught the fact that I made a mistake on my own doggone airflow. This is my own house, Wes. It's not like I'm doing it for somebody else. I messed up my own house because I wasn't putting the switches.
You mentioned those processes and procedures, and good Lord, we all need them and we all hate them.
Yeah.
There's a great book by a guy from out of town, Atul Gawande, called The Checklist Manifesto.
Yes.
Great book. I recommend it, but it talks about the value of a checklist, and so this builds on that, and it makes it better, easier. Once you get the hang of it, it's definitely easier. But objectively getting measurements from probes and sensors, and not eyeballing it, not beer can colding it. We've got real data and real measurable data, and we're basing our decisions on those on that data.
Yeah, and there's so many aspects, and I'm going to be interested in seeing that calculator and kind of playing around with that a little bit, because I think there's some hidden things that when I'm sure it's being taken into account, especially like you said, if you talk to your accountant. Sometimes we think about just what the cost was, what I had to pay you, that truck's hourly rate, but and then there's lost revenue, so we can quantify that. But then what about consumer confidence, right? And so what about the fact that people? So John Whitman taught me this, right? When I worked for John Whitman years ago, and he was like a father to me. And he says, Huff, listen, if you go out there and you install a system correctly and everything goes exactly as it's supposed to, and it's exactly as designed, he said, don't look for anybody to give you an attaboy and smack you on the back. You know why? That's what they paid for. They paid to get a job done well. That's what he said, there ain't nobody going to give you no roses for that crap. He said, but if you mess it up, he said, they'll tell everybody, right? He said, when you're at dinner with the family across the street, you guys are having this neighborhood dinner, and they're like, how's your life going? Nobody's going to say, man, I had a heat pump installed. You know what? It wasn't exactly as planned. Nobody's going to say about that. But listen, you get a heat pump installed that's a botched install, the whole freaking neighborhood's going to know about it, right?
And so, the family and their families,
Yeah, don't use that.
That's what I heard was that they might tell one person, but if you did a good job.
Right.
If you mess it up, they're telling everybody.
Yeah, everybody is going to know about it, right? And so winning that consumer, their confidence back is a really difficult thing. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's like there's so much more lost revenue that's even hard to quantify. Because of that, right? It's just like it's death to a company. And I'll be honest with you, I got out of the OEM world because I was just tired of having to go out to jobs, because a lot of times the brand gets blamed because the contractor doesn't want to say I screwed it up, right? And then the brand gets blamed, and then the brand's got to go out and be represented, and that just becomes just a terrible kind of ordeal. So being able, like Jim Bergman says, right? If you're not measuring, you're guessing. And so I love this measurement. I love the fact that ACCA is behind it and it's got their name on it, right? I'm a fan of both Measure Quick and ACCA's QI, just to be quite honest with you. Now, I haven't done the verified system performance. I did see a little bit about it, but I just haven't had a process to where I can go through the whole thing. But I definitely want to do that. So there's an element. So obviously a load calculation's got to be done, right? And the design's got to be done, because you're going to have to determine the CFM requirements for the rooms, right? And all that from start to finish. Yeah.
And to be fair, if you're replacing a system, you do not have to do a room by room load calculation. You could do a block load, keep it simple, something you could knock out in 10 or 15 minutes. Especially when you get pretty good and it's a fairly simple home. So that's not a heavy lift. Equipment selection, I think most of that is it's new to people. They're not familiar with OEM performance data, and looking at that, how does it work in my climate, and comparing that to the load. And then, I'm within the tolerances. I'm not, out of bounds when it comes to sizing. either the heating or the cooling system. But looking at all of those aspects, I think are extremely important. And then on the backside, have I got a good tight duct system? And if I don't, let's tighten it up. Let's save the energy, especially if the ducts are in unconditioned space. Oh my God, that's a huge energy suck. And then getting the air to the right places. We don't require balancing if there's no duct modifications. If we don't have to change anything, then there's no need to rebalance the system. So trying to be realistic, we're not trying to be too draconian in our requirements. We want it to be something that contractors could do and succeed at.
So is that also access to Measure Quick? Because I haven't done that one.
Yes, sir. Different workflow. Yes, sir.
Different workflow, and all that information is keyed in there, and it will judge right based on.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to go check that one out. I ain't had a chance to do that one yet. So how do folks get involved in this? How do they join, or how do they start this?
So I'm going to talk about two parts. ACCA, the trade association, is something you join. Contractor accreditation and the QI certificates are open to everybody. We open the barn doors wide open. Anybody can walk in. For accreditation, because ACCA sponsored it, members get a little better rate. Same thing for the QI certificates. We have a smorgasbord and all-you-can-eat subscription, monthly subscription. If you're an ACCA member and you're accredited, you get the lowest rate. But any and everybody is as welcome as an angel to demonstrate and prove to their customers that they're doing better work.
So what's the accreditation process?
The accreditation process is an online application, and we're going to ask a few basic questions. And it's submitting insurance. We want to see workers' compensation, auto, and general liability insurance. You can have more coverage, but those are the three on which we focus. And then there's an orientation. And this is aimed primarily in support of Energy Star. And so for Energy Star certified homes, we want to provide some background on Energy Star, some overview of the checklist and what's required and the elements involved there. So the orientations are primarily aimed more at support of the Energy Star programs, or it's a program now. We used to support the Verified Installation program. It has since been sunsetted, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens with Energy Star. But I would love to have a product I could take to them. They've come to us enough. I want to have a product I could take to them and say, now we're ready. Now we've got a population of contractors that we can point to and say, this is a good contractor.
Awesome. That's I like that accreditation thought there. It's very similar to something I'm doing over at Rewire, to be quite honest with you. Maybe not to the same extent, but also licensing and insurance, right? These kind of things are important
Yes,
because
sir.
there's a lot of fly-by-nights. Let's just face it. It seems like HVAC is kind of an easy business to start.
In some places.
Some ways.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's location. I think if you go to some states, some cities, you've got some serious hurdles to overcome. And then you go to other places and you can hang up a sign and be in business that day. It's fairly easy. So, and I'm not sure which is the right answer. That's a tough question. But whatever your local jurisdiction requires is what they require. And so we want to support you in that business. How can we help you succeed?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I found out through the process of working with RA and that asking, I'm so used to having to have a mechanical license, right? So I worked out of Virginia, Maryland, DC, and even my home state of West Virginia. When I started my own business, it's like, believe it or not, you would think West Virginia would hand you a license if you gave them a pack of Pell Mell and a lighter. Turns out ain't the case. I know some people that got grandfathered in. I did not. I had to go take that doggone test, and it was matter of fact, we had to take a mechanical licensing test and a business law test.
Yes,
you had to pass both. And
same in South Carolina. Absolutely.
I'm like, well, it ain't no joke. Well, they can make fun of us all they want, but well, they really tighten the screws down on this baby, which I was glad, right? I was glad
Right.
that. But then I talked to some other people in some other states, some big states that you would think would be all over it. And some states don't even have a mechanical license at all statewide. And it's all local jurisdiction. And some of them, if you can fog a mirror, you can get a license. It ain't no problem, right? So it's just interesting how that works. And I hope that as time goes on, that maybe we'll see some kind of things in that line change just for the end users, right? A peace of mind. But hey, we can't solve all that in one day, right? So another question I have, just because you see this stuff day in and day out, what are some of the biggest needs that you see in our industry? And I think you're trying to meet a lot of these with ACCA, but just what do you see
Sure.
kinda at service level?
Uh, so I think, one of the big ones that we hear about so much is workforce. Who's going to be the folks that come in? And we need help. We're always needing help. That's a big challenge. Regulation. Oh, they're requiring me to do this. Oh, they're changing that. That's a big challenge. Uh, the software has solved and helped a lot of things. One of the sessions at our conference that I'm looking forward to is the future of HVAC. Where are we going to be when AI helps us take a call, schedule an appointment, does a follow up, and improves our operation? How far away are robots? What's going to happen when I've got a machine that can lift, carry, braze, solder, wire a unit? What happens to my workforce needs then? I think our industry is relatively new compared to some of the other trades. But the future, I think that's the big what if. That's the big question mark. How is this going to unfold in the next few years? When self-driving cars or vehicles are more prevalent, they're the norm. How does that help our workforce? Delivering parts and pieces, or technicians, or equipment, all of it. It's the future. To me, that's the big one. And being ready for it, being open to it, thinking about it, doing what you can now to prepare for it. That to me is the biggie. Yeah, I was going to jump on distribution. How's that going to evolve over time? But I think you get the gist.
No, and I think that you hit on some really good things there. When we were at the Heat Pump Summit, NoSo Labs was there. I don't know if you got to talk to those guys, right? I know that I've actually talked with Winston a little bit, and they're training AI to be able to provide information. Like they integrate with a couple different, customer management platforms, CRMs, and it can literally read the call to you going down the road and give you the history of the call, like what's been done prior to you. Of course, that's providing somebody put good notes in, which is another pet peeve of mine. But it's able to read that call to you when you're going there, give you all the information, and then when you get there, if you need a wiring diagram or whatever, I think they've said they've uploaded like 1.3 million manuals and training it just for HVAC.
Information access. Are we going to have all the different streaming services? Is there going to be something like that for the different sources of information? How do the manufacturers play a role in that? One of the sessions was Alex Meany talking about access to performance data. I would love to see a much more universal way to access performance data. Good, useful performance
Good
data.
access, yes,
Different
yes.
operating points. And I understand there's concerns about giving away too much. The future of
Yes.
that's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be, but that kind of goes back to what I was talking earlier about. I'm so used to looking at extended performance data, to gauge whether a piece of equipment is performing according to its design or not, right? Now,
As
whether
you
that
should.
design fits the space, that's a different right? That's some other different kind of measurement.
Correct.
But
Correct.
we've got to
Correct.
verify that the box works, right? Before we can
Absolutely.
go into, right, to look at the other things. And having access to that information is great when I was with OEMs because I had access, easy access. Now, some brands are harder than others. I'll be quite honest with you. There
True.
are some brands that are fairly easy to find, right? But some are not, especially if it's a brand you're not normally associated with. Let's face it, you get called out to a job, you're trying
Yep.
to dot all your
Yep.
I's, cross your T's. It's not a brand you normally install. And so now you don't have as much easy access, right? Because you don't have a log on to their.
Right.
Everybody's got their own thing, right? There's going to have to be a more, a more consolidated way because this information is important. And I'm really like I want to get on my soapbox about that particular issue because to me,
Reach.
right? If I don't have that extended performance tables and I'm out there in a piece of equipment, yes, there are software to give us what we call normalized, right? It gives us about what it should be based on the tonnage and the SEER rating. But now we got inverters. And so my inverter outperforms what the normalized capacity is at low temps. That would blow your mind, right? And I'm slightly outperforming the extended performance data, but the extended performance data and what the normalized are two different, right? They're vastly different, and so that's why we got to have the right information.
Your point is you got to have a target. If you don't have a target, you don't know what to aim. And so I completely agree. And if it's a little bit more or a little bit less, you get to evaluate that and make a judgment call. But when you don't know, even if you've measured, you're still guessing. Where am I supposed to be? What is good?
Yeah.
Hopefully, sometimes you can find the knee pads, that instruction manual, laying around somewhere, and that can be helpful. I love mine for my unit. It's got a ton of great information, but you're right. Without having that information, whether it's on the job site or if it's not your job, and they did too good a job cleaning up the installation and it's gone, then yeah.
It's definitely something that's definitely got to be worked out here in the future. And I'm glad there's some really smart folks like yourself and others that really are kind of attentive to this, and knowing that it's coming.
I think it's going to be a group effort. I think it's going to be a bunch of us clamoring and continuing to clamor for that.
Absolutely. So I kind of want to close out with this.
Yes, sir.
Talk about some of the training that you guys already have available. I see Ed's on the road training a lot. I met Matt Atkins actually at Measure Quick. I was up there, got to meet Matt and hang out with him. Great guy. We think a lot alike. And so I love what you guys are doing. So talk about some of those trainings and also where they can find that listing and, with the website and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Well, we'll start with the easy part first, the last part. If you go to acca.org, we've got a nice column on there for training and education and events, and it'll give you a calendar. You can see the current events that are available. For training, we have for years stuck to sort of our core competency, which is the design series, Manual J, S, D, and T. We've added on some new training that speaks to how to communicate to customers, some basic diagnostics trainings, performance training. I believe that in support of our quality installation efforts, Measure Quick has a lot of great training. We try to push people that direction. I could see us developing some content along those lines too. Heat pumps are coming. We want to be a resource for contractors who aren't familiar and need to know more. Energy skilled is a designation, and if you're looking for a good heat pump course, I would say anything with an energy skilled designation. Jamie Kono at Pacific Northwest National Lab has done a great job on that particular front. But for education, that's where we focus, is primarily on the design series, and at this time, primarily for residences. JS, D, and T.
And I think, and that's important because a lot of our commercial stuff are already being done by mechanical engineers, right? It's the everyday residential that we see that really needs that help. And so
we've got our manual N, CS, and Q, which is on the light commercial side, but still unitary equipment. So there's a lot of contractors that do residential work. I also work on a big box store or a strip mall that's got some rooftop units. And so we've got some resources there. We probably have some opportunities there to get some training and make that available on that front.
Oh, wow. That'd be really good. I appreciate you taking the time out, Wes. And
it's always good to see you, man.
I'm sure we could spend a lot more hours talking about this. Maybe we'll have to come back again and hit that.
I would be honored.
Before I forget, you guys have a national yearly conference, right? So
yes, sir. Coming up in Las Vegas in March. Would love to see you there. Again, go to the website. We've got the dates. We've got the schedule up. You can take a look at who's going to be doing what. A very wide range of topics. And of course, if you like Las Vegas, come on down.
Come on down. Who doesn't like Las Vegas, right? I'm not a gambler, but I actually have, my wife has her brother there, so we always jump at the chance to go out. But I will definitely have to check those dates out. So go to ACCA.org. You can learn about training, learn about the national conference,
absolutely,
and a whole lot.
You can pick up the phone and give us a call. We're happy to talk to anybody and everybody.
Sounds great, Wes. You're a prince among men. I appreciate you, brother.
Oh, you're too kind, Huff. Too kind.
All right.